Underwriting support for The Andy Draper Show is brought to you thanks in part to Paisans Pizzeria. Located in downtown Medford, it's Italian done right. Give them a call at 541 772 3668.
Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm fortunate enough to have with me today Mr. Larry Johnson, VA SORCC American Indian Alaskan Native Program Manager.
Yes.
Larry, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Andy.
We know that, or I heard, and you can clarify this for me.
I'll do my best.
That there's a really robust Native American program
There
out
is.
at the VA SORCC.
Correct.
Can you kind of tell us a little bit about it and the history of that?
Yeah, I can. First thing I'd like to say is that there's a nonprofit group in the Valley, Grants Pass, Medford area, called SOIC. It stands for Southern Oregon Indian Consortium, that had been attempting to get a sweat lodge program at the VA SORCC for a number of years. And for whatever reason, that wasn't happening, it wasn't allowed. And somewhere around 2003, with a new director, we were given an opportunity. And they were gifted a piece of land on the very back end of the property, next to a pond, and it's an area with large trees and such, and allowed to go ahead and start a program. And so at that time, the people that were involved, these people from SOIC, were also registered volunteers with the Veterans Administration.
Let me stop you just a second, because
Yeah.
the SOIC kind of goes.
Southern Oregon Indian Consortium.
Okay, thanks, Larry.
I mentioned them earlier. They're a nonprofit. Okay,
Right, okay.
and we do partner with them in some other things.
Okay.
However, they were kind of the leading force, the guiding force in getting our sweat lodge program going, and we had a elder that would come over from Klamath Falls to pour for us. It started out, it was one time a month, and that was in late 2003. And about 3 years later, we started doing 2 sweat lodges a month, and we were growing. It was becoming more popular. We had a lot of veterans that were very interested. They were curious. They wanted to see what it could possibly do for them. And what we found is that you know, they were getting a lot from it. When I say a lot, what it is it's a spiritual program, okay? And we have veterans that are suffering from PTSD and from mental illness and addictions and such. And what the Sweat Lodge program can do is it can assist them with developing the spiritual end of their recovery. And that's what it's based on, okay? It's a respectful program, and it over the years has grown incrementally. We've received or have been gifted some buildings from volunteers, the volunteer agency, Community Resources Development out there, helped us to put up a yurt, which we use as kind of a cultural center, okay? And what we've done is we've expanded from just doing sweat lodges to where we also do groups and classes out there throughout the week. And the beautiful thing about it is it's for Native veterans, but it's for any veteran,
Okay.
and inpatient and outpatient. And so what we find is that veterans that go through there while they're inpatients, if they stick around in the area, they very, very often end up coming out pretty regularly and participating as outpatients also. Some of them even become volunteers themselves.
Okay, so it sounds like it's a fulfilling experience.
Absolutely, yeah.
In the Sweat Lodge program, are there other things, because I know that I've heard of salmon bakes and things like that that you do out there. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, we We try and teach some of the cultural practices, right? And the volunteers that we have out there represent different tribes, tribal affiliations, elders, and what they do is they bring their skills and they utilize those to teach the veterans and to provide them with experiences. Salmon bakes is a great example. Usually about once a year, we're gifted some salmon from one of the hatcheries, and we have one of our elders that is well known in the area for his salmon bakes, done in the traditional way, on sticks, over coals. And so we open that up at the facility. We usually announce that we're going to have a salmon bake and invite people to come out and just see who we are, what we're doing, and eat.
Okay, before I move on to the next thing, I want to back up to the Sweat Lodge piece. Now, I know there's tradition that goes with that, so I've never been to a Sweat Lodge. I don't want to go in there and act, stumble over myself. So can you take us through a little bit of that?
I can, Andy. Sweat lodges are very old. Okay, they've been since time immemorial, right? And basically, different tribes have slightly different ways in which they operate, in which they do them. But the basic premise behind them is the same, right? They're spiritual in nature. They generally involve 4 sessions, or what they call 4 doors. And what happens is we have stones that are heated outside in a fire pit, and those are brought into the lodge. Into the one that we have is kind of an eclectic one, because we have different leaders that pour the lodge or that lead the lodge, but they represent different tribes. So they've agreed upon a way in which they were going to present this particular lodge for veterans, and it works well. Okay, so the 4 doors, what happens is each one represents something different. The first one is an introduction, right? And usually they bring in a number of stones to get started with that. Some traditional songs are sung, welcoming of the spirits. After we get to the end of that round, then we bring more stones in. You open the door, more stones are brought in, and the door is closed again. And I should add that it's pitch black in there. There's absolutely no light. And so basically it's considered to be going into the womb of Mother Earth, okay? And it's warm. As a matter of fact, it can get rather hot, but it's comfortable, okay? And then in the second round, that's generally a round for offering prayers. And then there's usually, at the end of that round, a chanupa or a pipe that is brought in and passed around. And it's a veteran's pipe. It was a pipe that was carved, created, developed specifically for this lodge, and is carried by a veteran, right, and brought to that. He just also happens to be our primary leader for the lodge.
Okay.
The third round is usually the round where we bring in a lot of stones and really heat it up. And at that point, the idea behind it is we suffer a little for those that suffer all their life. And again, it's about prayer. It's about really going inside yourself and praying for those others that may be suffering. And then the final round is bringing in the rest of the stones and basically saying our goodbyes and letting the spirits go, so to speak. And that's the close of it. And then generally there's a meal shared afterwards. And that's provided by the VA source, by the way. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I know that I've heard different ideas about how you enter and exit during the during that time. There's some kind of idea behind that.
Right,
You want to share
right.
that?
Again, there's different types of lodges and different ideas about this. Generally speaking, when you go in humbly on your knees. And many will bow their head to the ground on their way in. Some will ask permission to enter of the person that is leading the lodge, who's already in there. When you go in, you start to the left, and you work your way around until you find your place where you're going to sit. And each continues to do that as you go in there. The idea is that you complete the circle. And so you begin the circle when you go in the door and you go to the left. When you come out of the lodge, whether it's in between rounds or at the end of the lodge, you come out after going all the way around. You complete it and you come out the lodge from the right side of it.
Okay, I've had the privilege of going out to the Native American property at the VA. Can you tell us, I know that there are certain things you need to keep in mind as you come out there.
Right.
Can you kind of take us through what we need to be thinking?
Yeah, I can do that. Thank you, Andy. We consider the land that we have out there sacred area, okay? And we actually have flags set up in a circle with tobacco in them, which is highly respected within the culture. And what we ask is when you come out there and when you enter that circle, that you're respectful. We ask that you don't swear. We ask that you be respectful and kind to each other, and you assist each other. And that's the basic premise behind it. And so what we find is interestingly, there's a number of veterans that come out there in off hours, and when there's nothing else going on out there, because it's peaceful. There's a presence in the area, and people like to come out there and just sit. And so, yeah, when people come out, we do ask, you know, a few things of them, but we don't demand it. Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna move on.
Okay.
Powwows, Larry. I know
Yes.
that powwows are done out there. Can you kind of talk to us about it? And we have a few pictures of that.
Absolutely,
We'll show.
absolutely. The powwows actually preceded the Sweat Lodge program. And the SOIC was, the volunteers that were out there that were part of the SOIC actually had gotten, with the help of an employee, permission to start a powwow out there. The first one was in the theater, and that was 22 years ago. Now, it's a veterans powwow. This is going to be the 22nd year. It's the first weekend in June every year. Little plug there. But,
Great.
Yeah, anyway, powwow is a bringing together of the community. In this case, it's a celebration of welcoming veterans home. Okay. It's celebrating veterans. It's honoring veterans. Okay. And what we do is we generally ask veterans to come in the grand entry of the powwow on Saturday, which is coming in behind the eagle staffs and the flags, and they make their way around the powwow grounds, and they come back to facing the MC, and at that point the flags are placed, and then the veterans line up around the outside edge of the grounds, and one at a time they introduce themselves, and we generally invite one of the administrative staff of the SORCC to come down and to offer them a token, you know, whether it be a coin, a medallion, or the past couple of years we've been giving them dog tags.
Okay, so I've been to a couple of powwows.
Yes.
I see a lot of different regalia and out there.
Yeah.
So it's pretty diverse. Can you kind of tell us how that happens and how all these people come together?
Yeah, many of the people actually travel to powwows all over, right? I mean, there's what's called powwow season, and it's again, it's a celebration. It's family, right? And many of the families they create their own regalia Okay, so what you see them wearing, generally they make themselves.
Okay.
Okay. There's names for many of the different pieces and parts of it, but a number of them are actually competitive dancers. We are not a competitive powwow, we're a veterans powwow. Again, it's for honoring veterans, so we don't do competitive dances or anything like that. But we do get dancers there that, you know, are part of that circuit also. So we have vendors out there, of course, and for the most part, we get dancers and participants from all over the state of Oregon, Northern California, also Washington. Sometimes we get some from Idaho. And in the past couple of years, we've actually had a visit from the Aztec dancers from down in California, and I think we've added a couple pictures of those.
Yeah, there's some pictures showing in the background there and on the screen of some
But
of
the regalia can be just absolutely beautiful.
When is this again, Larry?
First weekend in June.
First weekend
I
in
believe
June.
this year it's going to be the 2nd and the 3rd of June.
Okay, and how
Saturday
long
and Sunday.
is it?
It's 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. It generally opens up at about 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. And it'll run into the evening till just after dark on Saturday. Sometimes it can run longer. And then start back up again about 10 o'clock on Sunday morning and end at about 5 on Sunday. But the public is welcome. We absolutely love to have anyone from the public come out there and join us and see what this is about, and join us in celebrating, you know, the return of the veterans and honoring them.
When we talked earlier, talked a little bit about good medicine.
Yeah.
Can you go over that with us, please?
I can. On top of the Sweat Lodge program, we've actually added some classes to our curriculum out there, to what we do. And every Tuesday we have, I'm going to stretch this out a little, every Tuesday we have what's called Talking Circle, which is a way of getting together in a group and being able to, in a circle, and using a talking stick or an eagle feather or something like that, to go around one at a time and share whatever is in your heart or on your mind. And it's done in a respectful manner. If you have the object, then you have the floor. You're not to be interrupted. You're not to comment. You're not to crosstalk. It's safe, and it can be very powerful, okay? And we offer that, it's about a 1 hour group, and we offer that every Tuesday. We offer a drum circle on Wednesdays, and this is a place to come out, or a time to come out and learn about powwow drums. We have a drum out there, and we have people that come and actually teach drumming and songs. And so it's an opportunity to come out and participate and learn. Okay. Now Thursday we have what we call good medicine, and this is where we really get into traditional Native ways of recovery, learning about medicines that are used within the culture. And we're talking about herbs, we're talking about smudging, we're talking about, there's many different medicines and they're used in different ways. So we teach about that, and we also bring examples of it out there so people have an opportunity to touch it, to smell it. We'll burn a little sage or some of the other items that are brought out there. And basically, we also get into teaching about tools and the making of the tools and the purpose of the tools. And really in Native culture, it's all spiritual, okay, including the making of the tools and the building of the tools and the regalia and all of it, okay. So it's all connected, every piece of it.
It all works together.
It does. It does.
The smudging piece, I've heard a lot. I've even seen it, but I really don't understand what's happening there. Can you kind of
It's
Shine some light on that.
Yeah, I can. Sage is generally used for that. Cedar can also be used. There's a few different types of sage. But generally what it is it's a cleansing of the spirit. Okay? Much like you'd use soap and water to clean your body, the smoke from sage or cedar is used as a spiritual cleanse, right? And it can be quite calming, relaxing, and pretty powerful. There's even some studies that have shown that there's medicinal properties in having that done.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to the powwow with you again.
Okay.
So I've been to it, and I've been into the grand entry, and there's a lot of different pieces of what happens at a powwow.
Sure.
You were talking about the eagle staff as you do the grand entry. So I hear grand entry, but it's not telling me what's happening there. Can you kind of tell us what's the meaning of it?
To the best of my ability.
Okay, yeah.
All right. Basically what's happening is you have some leaders within the Native community, generally veterans themselves, elders that lead the people in, right, and the veterans. And it begins with them, and then behind them are the flags. Generally ahead of the American flag, the POW flag, and the Oregon flag are what are known as the eagle staff. And these are flags of the people, okay? And they're made up of eagle feathers and furs and such. And what they represent is, they honor people that have passed on. So all of the eagle feathers that are on that staff were gifted, and generally, asked if they could be on there when someone passes. Say a Native veteran, and the family would gift and then the person that carries that staff, that becomes a part of them, a part of who they are. They also carry the stories of everybody that's on it.
Okay.
And so it's considered a great honor to carry that. And actually, one of our primary elders carried that for many years locally, and just passed it on to another one of our VA staff here recently. And so it still stays local, and it stays with us. But generally, the eagle staff comes in ahead of the other flags because the indigenous peoples were here first.
Okay.
And it's not a dishonor. It's just a recognition.
Right.
Okay.
And it's history.
It's
That's what I heard.
absolutely history.
Is
Absolutely.
there.
Behind the flags are generally some warriors. So different veterans are invited to come in behind the flags and just slowly kind of proceed around the area or the arena area and dance a little. There's generally dancers behind the veterans.
Okay.
Women come in behind them also. But it's basically the opening of the ceremonies,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And so, and then they use the same process when they shut it down at the end for the day.
Okay.
Right? They bring it out in the same way.
Okay. I hear you talked about drums before, and when I've gone to a few powwows, I hear the drums, I hear prayers and stuff. Sometimes you're not sure what to do when that's happening. I know cameras and stuff are always around. We need to know when is what's appropriate and what's not. How do we determine that?
There are certain ceremonies within the culture that are considered, I guess you'd almost say sacrosanct. They ask that you not take pictures, okay? These are private. And so there's some of those that take place during the powwow, but the MC, the person that's actually kind of running things and keeping things going, will let the crowd know, will let people know when it's okay to take pictures and when it isn't. okay?
Okay.
So sometimes there's some ceremonies that need to happen or take place. Say a feather may be dropped, which is like a man down.
Okay.
And so there's a specific ceremony that needs to happen in order to get that back.
Okay.
Okay? And so this is also true with sweat lodges. Like our sweat lodge area, they ask that there be no pictures or cameras,
Right.
videos,
Okay.
anything like that out there.
Okay. So we're getting down to about 2 minutes
Okay.
in the show here, Larry. I know you wanted to speak a little bit about volunteers, maybe.
Sure.
Could you talk to us about that?
Yeah, there's only a few staff, a few of us that work in that program. We really rely heavily on volunteers from the community, and these are generally native veterans themselves. And right now I operate with about 6 volunteers, active volunteers that come out and assist. And there's wood to split and cut, and I mean there's a lot to do to prepare and to make everything happen out there.
So you could use more volunteers.
Well, certainly, but again, it's with the right motives and the right idea behind it. We do serve inpatient and outpatient veterans, but the thing I wanted to bring up about volunteers is that much of what we have out there is as a result of the volunteer organization on station, the people that our volunteers are registered through. We have our cultural center as a result of them. They've bought us blankets, they've helped us with supplies, they've done so much to assist us that I want to acknowledge them.
Okay, so if somebody wants to volunteer, how do they do that?
They would come in and they would go to Community Resources Development and talk to them about wanting to be a volunteer out there. And if they were to say that they were interested in becoming a volunteer at the American Indian Alaska Native program, then they would be referred over to me. And at that point I would talk to them about what their interest is and why, and also what it is that they would bring to it, right? Because basically our idea is to teach and also to offer services to the veterans. And so motives are kind of important in that. There are those that would come out there just to be able to be a part of the sweat lodge, right? And be able to sweat there. So I would be interested in knowing, what it is that you would bring.
Okay, I understand. Larry, it's
what to
been a
offer.
pleasure talking with you. Thank you for talking
Thank
with
you
us
very
today.
much.
And we will.
I appreciate the
Okay,
opportunity.
it's an honor, sir.
All right.